Everybody, Monday afternoon, a little bit cooler today. It's coming on for 4 o'clock. Done a lot of sanding, cleaning up. Haven't been able to do any more on the hull today, unfortunately, because the orbital sander is packed up, got completely gummed up, and some of the windings burnt out because the spindle locked. But there we are. But we're making good progress yet again. Polishing up, and I'm just going to go and do some wrecking work inside, which is going to be fun. It's been a while. So one of the jobs that's been on the list for a long time and I've not actually got round to this summer is removing this last cupboard, what was a cupboard, from the head. It's a real pain because it's really limiting. Basically we need to be able to use this as storage. We've got so much stuff on the boat and this is just getting in the way. So I'm going to get crowbar and the oscillating tool and just rip the last section of that cupboard out using our lovely Makita tool. There we go, that's that out of the way. So if I just bring you over, I'll be careful, I'll be gentle, don't worry. So this particular area is not in good shape. We've got some bad rot there, so all of this bulkhead's going to need to be replaced. There's also a bit of wood panelling behind this that needs to come out. That's a pain in the backside. So once we can actually remove this thing, we'll have a much better idea of what needs to be done with this bulkhead. So I'll just tip you back on the tripod, open the legs out a little bit, and you will have the best seat in the house to watch me do this. It's been a long time since we've done wrecking or removal, whatever you want to call it. So this is hopefully going to be a bit of fun. Oh, terribly hot work, my darlings. But we're down to this last little stub of cupboard. Got some tabbing to clean up here, along with what seems to be sawdust, but it being an old head that I doubt has been cleaned properly for 20 or 30 years. I dread to think what it actually is, and we feel quite nauseous. But anyway, I can get to the tabbings on both sides, the tabbing on both sides of that now. So I'm going to Makita that out, oscillating tool that out, and there's a load of old detritus in here, chain locker door, a big funnel, and a miscellaneous seacocks and through holes. So that's that through hole. Actually, both of those through holes are going to have to come out and be patched, which is all right because that's, you know, we're used to patching holes in the hull. And it would be quite nice to get this ridiculous piece of backing ply out. There's no immediate rush to do that. It looks like it's sort of 3mm or something like that. It's only very thin, but the through holes into the side, one of which is for the helm footwell, the other two for, one was for the sink, and what the other one was for I don't know actually. Certainly not for the sea toilet because that goes through below the waterline. But in any event, let's get this out. You've been very good, so I'm going to let you watch. I don't know how much you'll be able to see, but I will let you watch. Oh, You see, the wood was so rotten, the tabbing was just holding on by. Here's tooth skin. What? Yes. So now that's just tabbing that needs to be zuzzed off, which I can handle. Saturday, start of the Saturday session. We have a new weapon. It's a beautiful Makita sander, orbital sander, and you can actually swap the sanding plate out for a polishing pad. So that's going to come in very useful. So the plan is knock back some of the fairing that we did. If I just give you a little ever so gentle turn down there. So we're going to knock this back nice and flush, get rid of the muck, and then it's going to be down on the underside of the hull. So it's a very hot day, so I'm going to do this in short controlled bursts. We will see. Okay, first half hour of using this lovely new Makita BO6030, and it is absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful tool, much quieter, and it knocked that stuff back in about 10 minutes, including that and that. Wonderful. It would have taken a lot longer with the old sanders and would have been horrific by hand. And I've started on the anti-foul below the waterline. It's rattling through that. I reckon I could probably do about, I could probably get the rest of that section done in an hour or so. So not lightning quick, not unbelievably black magic quick, but a hell of a lot quicker than the other sanders were. So that's nice, but I'm going to have a water break because it's very hot and my mask and my goggles are getting all sweated up. But yes, good stuff so far. Right, here we are. It's Saturday early evening here, coming on towards 5:30, I believe. Yes, or at least exactly 5:30. Now I've made something today, apart from a terrible mess. I've made myself a little longboard sander, which is basically an old sheet of fiberboard with two handles resined on, and a coat of resin just to give it a teeny bit more stiffness, and two sheets of velcro, and a nice sheet of sandpaper. So let's see if it works. Well, there we go. Successful invention. Wonderful. It's got a good bit of flex. We're doing curved sections of the hull, or the curved sections of the gunnel towards the bow. It's going to be very, very useful. Excellent. Very pleased with that. Very pleased indeed. So, it's the end of the day now, really. And it's been a lot of grinding and sanding. Got some more filling to do tomorrow, and even more grinding to do below the waterline, but hopefully it's going to be a little bit cooler. I'm going to go and tidy up, pack all the tools up, toddle home, have a shower and get changed, and then we're off to see some friends this evening. So that will be a lot of fun, but we'll be back again almost as soon as this clip ends. So here's an area that we've got to grind out. This is the forward cabin roof, and this is an add-on section. And if you look carefully, you might be able to see some screw holes just under the gel coat there. But for the moment, I'm grinding out these really quite extensive spider cracks, and there's clearly bits that are trying to pop out in this heavily crazed section. So we get the old rotary tool with a reasonably small sized bit. Clean that off, try and keep these things clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the outside, I'm going to grind back, dragging it back, and then once I've done a decent length, I'll brush it out, get the dust out the way so I can see if I'm all the way through the crack. If I'm not all the way through the crack, I go again. If I am, I just carry on. So I'll just bust along this bit and see how we get on, running at sort of medium speed on the tool. So now let's have a look at that section. Let's give it a brush out. And no, that's all, apart from just where it's shallowing out at the end of the run. There's no further crack in that gel coat, so that's good, we can carry on. It's a little peripheral bit there. Now you might find that as you approach, so the impact point I believe would have been here. Looks like maybe something's been dropped or somebody sat down too heavy, but you might find as you get to the sort of the centre point of the damage, the cracks get deeper and deeper, and that seems to be what's happening here. And you'll also find that where the cracks come together, it does get, I mean that section there is going to have to be ground out entirely. It's very uneven. And that seems to be where that's where the angle of the forward cabin meets this section. So there's been some force here, I suspect, and that's caused that crack. So what I might do is actually later in the process is take this off entirely and pack out underneath, because this is too low. This isn't very well mounted, so it needs to be up a bit, and a little bit of soft latex foam or something like that will do that very nicely. But I think you've seen enough of this, but I will crack on and I will grind the rest of this and show you when I'm done. So here we are, the grinding is done now. A fair bit of gel coat came out, especially in this area, which we were sort of expecting. Found a few more bits over here. So now I need to wash it down, give it a bit of acetone, and then I'll mix up some thickened gel coat and slap it on. And then the rest of the thickened gel coat I'll use on the top sides towards the aft. Okay, here we go. Cleaned it all off very thoroughly. Water scrubbing brush and then acetone, which is now flashed off. I've gone on, I've mixed up about 150 ml of gel coat with a lot of colloidal silica. So it's a nice filler, nice and solid, which is how you want it. So this is just how I do it, you understand? I'm not saying this is how everybody should do it, but go in the direction of the scratches, shallow angle on the scraper. You are going to need to come back and do this again. Be under no illusions, but this is a start. And try and avoid material spreading to other parts of the fiberglass or gel coat or whatever it is you're repairing. We need a bit more on there, so we'll just splot. And you want to leave kind of a skim on the top. You know you're going to have to knock it back. You're always going to have to knock this back because there's always going to be stray bits sticking up, and you're probably going to need to come back and refill some low spots, but that's for later in the process. For the moment, what we're trying to do is get the right amount of material down at the right-ish level, and bits of this are looking pretty good. So you're working with the grinds as much as you can, and that way you're dragging material along the crack rather than trying to get it to bridge across the crack. If you're bridging, chances are you're going to leave a lot of air gaps under the fill, and you want to avoid that because that's always going to be weaker. You know, you drag it over, but looking at it you can see that the material is ever so slightly shallower, which is why I like to have a little bit extra floating on the top. So we're just dragging it along, a little bit thick. And that is starting to get a bit more resistant now. Maybe I should have made the putty a little bit thicker, who knows? Let's a bit more there. I do want a bit more there. Okay, so that's a rough fill on this section. I'm going to give that, or I'm going to say, an hour to set up, and then I will come back and I will coat it in PVA so it cures properly overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow and fair it. But in a little while I'll show you what happens when you do PVA coat large areas of gel coat and sand them, because we've got a big lump of it down on the port side of the hull below the waterline that still needs a bit of attention. So I'm going to go and use the rest of this thickened gel coat on the top sides towards the end of the companionway. Phew! Well, after an hour of longboard sanding in the sweltering heat, we're now at the point where all I've got is low spots, and it's actually looking really good. I'm really pleased with it. So wifey's on her way down to come and pick me up. I'm about halfway along the hull line here, along the water line, so that's good. But I'm going to go and put PVA on the gel coat filler that I put on the fore cabin roof, so that sets up. And looking forward to coffee and donuts, I must admit. Whew, what a day, but it's good progress though, considering I came here sort of just after lunch. I've got quite a lot done, so happy days. Hello gyms and gymettes. Here we are, back on the fore cabin roof. So the gel coat has set up, but it is tacky, as it always will be, because there's no waxing styrene mixed in with it. So we get our old friend PVA and a brush, clean brush. That's clean enough. It's just to stop the air getting to the surface of the gel coat. So if it cures in the presence of air, it cures tacky, but it's not too late to get some PVA on. And it really is as simple as this. And this is nice because this is a relatively flat surface. It's a lot easier than doing the sides of the hull with it, which actually took 2 coats, but it did set up beautifully as the longboard sanding showed. So I'm being quite generous. Sploosh it on. There's a few voids in this, weirdly. We'll sort that out with the second attack. Look at that, get it all on, even the odd bits that went astray, because you're really going to want to sand the renegade bits back. You know, all those hanging around. And I expect when this has all done, when this has all cured and we've sanded it back, the new stuff is going to look a lot whiter than the old stuff. But that's fine, because we're going to get some proper fiberglass cleaner, oxalic acid, oxy something acid, and we'll use that all over the boat. That's all covered in PVA now, and I will do the same for the sections of the top sides near the cockpit and the companionway that I've done. But that will set up properly now, and we'll come back tomorrow and it will all be beautifully cured and we can sand it back flat as a pancake. And there's only a couple of little bits on radiuses, so it should be quite an easy job. So here we are back again, and this filling is set up, and I've just sprayed it with some water, loosen up the PVA, but I like to keep a bit of the PVA on because it foams up and acts as a bit of a lubricant for the wet sanding. So we'll give this a bit of a bash. The longboard sander is very good, but there was obviously too much material to knock it back in any reasonable amount of time using it. I'm not too heartbroken about that, because it does mean I'm not going to have to go back and refill too many low spots. There are a couple, but it's nothing too serious. But after a little while it did get a little bit hot and a little bit boring, so I switched over to the mouse sander, and that really did help me knock it back a lot more quickly. That's all we've got for episode 11. Hope you enjoyed it. There would have been a bit more, but I've mislaid some video files. They basically just show us finishing the filling on the gunwales, me sanding back the hardtop right on the top of the boat and finishing off the forward cabin roof and giving the boat a damn good scrub. And here you can see lovely gorgeous wifey using the jet washer to get the last of the grime off. It's been a really productive week again, and we're looking forward to ordering the gel coat, both the coloured and the white, to really get cracking on finishing the outside of the boat. And we've sooner or later got to really buckle down and finish grinding out the underside of the hull, ready for an epoxy barrier and some anti-foul. So we'll see you for the start of all that fun stuff in episode 12.